A YouTube map contributor, Julian Powell, at one time was roped into the online sleuthing community because he took photos that were used on Google Maps. And he's contacted me on this channel, and I have communicated with him very little, and basically he said the only thing he's ever done besides doing the images for the map and doing photos for fun was send the equipment back because he borrowed it from Google. And the only thing anybody could bring up about him in a specific video I covered was whether or not he tried to erase the content or was asking if it would be erased. And he has given a perfectly rational and reasonable explanation that he was trying to avoid deleting it from the maps, but wanted to clear some space because he was running out. The 360 3D view images that are used for Google Street View that you submit, especially if you use the equipment they suggest, generally takes up a shit ton of space. Someone asked me, said, he's in an institution, a mental institution? And I said, okay, where did you get that from? Where's the link? I heard it from a host creator, asked him about it, and waiting for his reply. Looked on the Facebook page. He was being followed by 13 people, now there's 14. I'm under the belief that that's new. That's a conclusion. I'm not going to address it. That doesn't mean anything as far as it's Facebook. I can like him or follow him. 1,000 people could go there. Would that be a change in behavior? Is it something he has power over? Everything turned black, etc. Another thing where shows him presently working at Indiana State of Corrections. I thought of messaging him on Instant Messenger, but I wanted to know precisely what you got from him. What I got from him is that he was contributing to a project to map the area. He was the only one who apparently provided the two slightly different positioned versions of the image. The images have been deleted because Google will do that. And at one time he was asking whether or not him cleaning out the unnecessary space on his photo bucket version that he has, it's actually the Google equivalent to photo bucket at the time, would affect the maps. And he was told no or yes. And the answer is none of those answers are really correctly done. But anyway, he wasn't trying to delete it from the map, and that's all I was able to find out. Also, he'd been put through hell by people on social media, just like basically anybody else named. And I apologize if I contributed to that, but he also has a fairly generic name, and I pointed out that someone would have to go out of their way to prove they were the person who did the imaging. And yeah, any deletion of data, especially done by Google, and also if he did it, is bad because it makes things ambiguous. Never do it. But yeah, he wasn't trying to delete the image. The images from Google that he took out, he did not take them out. AG, if you're watching, again, the point of the video should be, well, it isn't the video. This is the video where I was trying to find out if it was even him. He didn't delete any of these things, so I'll post that as a response. But he's not responding to that, or did not responsible for that, excuse me. I don't know. Maybe he will respond. He did respond. He wasn't trying to erase it. I'll post the link to the video and to his comments to you. If he isn't in an institution or working at one, the creator said he lost it and checked himself in, but I know, why am I believing this? It's storytelling. There's very little data coming out, so we have a data vacuum. This is common in court cases and in ongoing investigations. And instead of saying, we're not revealing anything to the public until we know what the answers are, and we don't know anything yet. Next, what little we're giving you is because we're trying to get help from you. You should not infer anything from it. We're trying to get things from you to infer. And then finally, everybody can make a mistake or be wrong about their assumptions, and if you don't acknowledge that about yourself, we don't have to train you. So anyway, again, he didn't delete the images. I don't believe he's in an institution unless he says so. And honestly, he's not a suspect. Julian Powell is not a suspect. Also, people have gone way out of their way to dramatize the situation. That means they're lying about stuff all over the internet. So you should assume every bit of information, including me, is just wrong at bare minimum, or a lie at worst case scenario. Now let's move on to another person. On a pot grower and falconer, Marcus Servant King, Unraveling Confusion Programs, etc. A person living in a particular part of the country used to have a falconry ranch where he would take in birds and taught people about birds, etc., who ended up killing all of his animals. He also ended up getting arrested and then eventually just forgiven and released for growing pot. Marcus Servant King, a.k.a. another name. Quote, he gave evidence out the wazoo for everything he said. He made a claim of him being the only source basically channeling truths about something. I'll bring it up if we need to. Let's see if you bring up what he actually says. Maybe you ought to go back and review the videos over again. He put up dozens of videos that he eventually wanted to charge money for, but he left complete synopsis and transcripts of so you wouldn't have to watch them. So I archived them. He got mad that no one was paying him for his wisdom, and you can read them, and I'm the only person who ever archived them and provided them to you. The only reason you can read his information and decide if he's proven anything, besides just making statements without any proof, hint, hint, he never proved a goddamn thing he said. By reading it, you can actually evaluate it much more easily instead of him droning on and on and on for hours, not explaining himself. I provided you that information. He tried to charge you money for it and wouldn't let you criticize him in the comment section. The only one who's made unproven claims is you. I provide the evidence of why I've come to the conclusion you don't even have a basis for what you're saying here. Look up the things he pointed out. I did. He's full of shit. But that's my conclusion. And again, he won't get any money from you because you don't have to pay him. And I provided links to where you can just read it. And L, if you're watching, did you read any of the shit you think you heard? He did a slideshow putting up what he was saying. He copied the slideshow, made it a text file. You can just read it. You don't have to give the guy any money. He's also been caught being very dishonest about why the Falcons died, what he was doing, whether he was a good or bad person. But he has some sort of deep proof about the inner workings of your inner zonk or something. There was plenty of proofs to anyone with the intellectual mind. Like, how many definitions and references do you need? Well, I'm the one providing the references and definitions that he gave, showing that he did not know what he was doing. But you have to have the certain kind of mind to see his truth. Opinion much? So no, I don't believe he's correct. And yes, I did my due diligence and you haven't. I'm not going to sit through the equivalent to 8 hours worth of shit when I can read it in a half hour. It's really not that densely packed data. He'll put up a slide and talk about it endlessly for 10 minutes and then move on to the next slide. That's 2 kbytes of data being taken up by 10 megabytes, or 100 megabytes in his case. You might want to say thank you for somebody, the only person who archived his work. I felt it was important enough to archive because I was debunking it. He didn't want you to be able to get the transcripts after a while, so they were erased. One of us is being honest. The other one is going out of his way to make money off of this shit. Next. I'm completely off topic, and the person says, and I haven't read it yet, so let's read it together. Do you think that ancient people may have used plants with spikes on them and poisonous plants as fencing for farming? I've seen that actually, something like that done. I think it would be an obvious thing because it would be caused by people finding the plants, removing them, throwing them to the outer edge, piling them up. If they grow back, ripping them out of the ground and throwing them would effectively plant them. Many plants like this that you're describing are the kinds that it doesn't matter if you rip them out of the ground, they'll try to grow where you land them. It'd keep the animals in that you want to grow and the other animals out to protect the vegetables. Cactus, citrus, etc. It may have been going on for a very long time and explain more about plant migration. I hope you're well. Cheers from down under. This isn't, by the way, answered. The next thing is that I have thought of making a really very useful thing by transplanting trees to the outer perimeter and packing smaller trees between them, like ailanthus trees that grow into basically fence posts, and using that, if I ever get dirt, to make a constantly self-maintaining wall of plants. Mostly because it attracts animals and birds and stuff that I like, and it makes it to where 2- or 4-footed predators have a hard time getting in. Of course, I'm talking about kangaroos and wallabies. So anyway, let's review. A guy supposedly in an institution, but no proof of it, but it's a claim by a channel, but no proof was provided. AG has indicated. I would ignore it. It's trivial these days to include a link in the video's description or to at least tell us the keywords to look up. Next, the fencing caused by natural effects of people clearing land would actually be possible, and taking advantage of it by discovery seems to be really how a lot of the stuff we do is. So yeah, that sounds plausible. Actually, very, very good idea. The next one, Marcus the Servant King wasn't a servant, he was an exploiter, in my opinion, and I back that up by having a bunch of links in the description of the video where I describe him. He was a falconer, ran a falconry location, and ended up killing all of the birds, or almost all of them, and burying them. And he said he did it deliberately for specific reasons. Whether those reasons are accurate or not, I don't know. He was also a pot grower who got cited and harassed and released. I think he was actually within Canada, by the way. Next, he put up a bunch of videos claiming to tell you the ultimate proof of things and truth of things and did slideshows. But he also put up text versions of it at one time and then removed them because he didn't want people being able to just read things and learn. He wanted profit. But while they were up, I went ahead and archived the shit out of these things, and I'm the source of your archives you can read to find out whether or not I'm completely wrong about what he says, or he's wrong, or I'm wrong and he's right, or it's a mix, or we're just misinterpreting things. Or you can claim I'm the one who didn't provide any proof or did any due diligence when I obviously did. Now, I'm being self-serving here, so I'll leave a link to these comments and to the content. Now, if that is the one video that I don't have all of those backup copies on, that's fine. And again, if you're not aware of it, on the person who may or may not be in an institution, again, I showed that the guy did not deliberately delete a damn thing. And on the case of Marcus, the Servant King, he did delete things on purpose. But yeah, I think the whole fence migration thing, pretty good theory. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.